welcome to 40 Under 40 Business Achievement Awards, and congratulations on winning 40 Under 40.
Thank you. Thanks for having me. I'm excited.
You're welcome. And please introduce yourself and everything that you do for business and why you won.
Sure. My name's Elise Gasbarrino. I founded Pink Pearl Canada, which supports young women with cancer, as well as Style Canada. So we're an online media publication for fashion, beauty, lifestyle. And we actually just opened a pop-up last week downtown Niagara on the Lake.
Oh my gosh. Well, I love fashion, so we're going to have to chat. But let's start talking, because you have so many different things. There's cancer, there's fashion. How did you, so they're two separate businesses?
Yeah, two separate businesses. So my career is in fashion. So I spent a decade in New York at corporate with Burberry, Oscar de la Renta, and the account management side, whereas Pink Pearl was more a personal passion. So I was diagnosed with ovarian cancer when I was 21. And so it started just as a fundraiser that grew into a registered charity, and now we're across Canada.
That's amazing. Congratulations and for beating that. That's amazing. I personally know what it's like, and it is a very tough journey, both mentally and physically. So let's talk about when you decided to make it an actual business. How did you market yourself, and how was the transition of COVID and doing everything online? Let's chat about that as well.
Yeah, so for Pink Pearl, it really happened organically in that it was based on me being 21, seeing that there wasn't a lot of programs out there to support young women. And so we slowly started to do programs, register, and then I guess that pivot to business was when it would just become too much it was no longer a hobby, I guess, if it were an extracurricular activity. So that happened very naturally. With Style Canada, I was living in New York, and I had invested in the domain style.ca, and that also started a bit as a hobby, just as a blog, and now it's grown into a pretty big media company. We get 7 million visits a month to this site. We have a podcast. Yeah, so that's kind of, I guess, both sort of naturally happened. And then during COVID, to answer that question, Style Canada being digital was all online, so that wasn't too big of a pivot, except that our team started working from home. But Pink Pearl was definitely a pivot in terms of COVID. We had actually just gotten our first retreat done like a week before, or not our first retreat, sorry, our most recent, I guess, retreat a week before COVID hit. And being an immunocompromised population, we had to move everything to virtual after that, and we still are virtual for the most part. We've just started doing fundraisers again, and hopefully in the new year, we'll start being able to do some in-person programming.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And so you talked a lot about organic growth. So let's break that down a bit. When you're creating a business, do you believe that organic growth is the best way to go about things, or is it sometimes like take that risk, dive all in?
I think a little bit of both. Yeah. I think it's a little bit of both. Like, I've invested in a couple companies too, where it's like believing in the the founder rather first, and that I think is a little bit of a risk. I think and I'll use a recent example of risk with Style Canada. We do some pop-ups, like we've done pop-ups in Muskoka, Toronto from time to time, but just, getting this space right now was a little bit of a risk, a little bit of a leap. So I think it kind of is a little both, to your point, right? Like, you do have to take that risk every once in a while, but also let it flow and see kind of what path it brings you down.
Now let's talk about fear and being a business owner. Successful people have fear, and do business owners fear things, and how do they combat that fear, and how do they decide on, a lot of the times fear is insecurity, or it's like that inner voice, or it's, oh, is this gonna work? And how do you manage all of that when you're going through everything?
That's a good question. I feel like specifically during COVID, like that, when to take that risk and when to take that leap, because times were uncertain. It felt even more so during those times. I think how I manage it, I guess, is sometimes just like looking for a sign. Like with the pop-up specifically, I like went for a walk. I was by the lake. I'm like, just give me one random sign if I should sign the lease, right? And then like there was something cool on the park bench, that like a fairy wand or something. So I'm like, okay, that's a good enough sign. So for me, I think during COVID, it might be a little different of how I balance fear versus normal times, that I'm looking more to the universe, like, should we go, want to do this? But I've been pretty good at always like taking that leap, I guess. stress too. So
Yeah.
managing that a bit.
And like I know I'm very much a spiritual person, and I always I look for the angel numbers,
Yeah.
and I'm looking for all the signs, and I totally get that. But at the end of the day, it brought you to where you are today, and you won 40 under 40. So again, congratulations, and thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thanks for
Congrats.
having me.
Thank you.